So, hi everyone, welcome to Gray Area. I'm Rob Engel, and today I'm very excited because we have French DJ and producer Worakls with us. Worakls, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm very happy. Hi, guys.
Yeah, and Oracle's very excited to kind of have this conversation with you today for a number of reasons. Gray Area is a publication and initiative that is really focusing on uniting the various pieces of the house music community and exposing people to new artists. And you are kind of like the embodiment of somebody who's breaking different barriers in terms of genre. So, very excited to speak with you for that reason. But then, secondly, as I was digging into your background and learning a little bit more about you, and as we were kind of just chatting, you have a pretty unique path when it comes to your entrance into electronic dance music. So I think I would love to just start off. Could you just talk a little bit about your background and kind of how did you initially get into music?
Into music. Well, it was actually very simple. When I was 3 years old, my parents just brought me to the piano lessons, and so I started to learn the piano from 3 to 12, and then quit the lessons, and I continued by having bands, composing for my bands, and yeah, and having garage and rock bands and that kind of things. And then later, I started to club, and when I started doing that, I noticed that we didn't need a garage anymore, or we didn't need a drummer to be on time, or a guitarist to be able to play whatever you would write for him. So it was super cool because I could finally do music all day long with my computer. So I switched to electronic music for that, and also for for the infinity of possibilities that you have when you do electronic music. So yeah, I got many different approach of music, and every time it has been very rich and very teaching me a lot of things.
And is there anyone else in your family who kind of comes from that musical background who kind of serves as an inspiration for you?
Yeah, my father was well, he's still a guitarist, but he's self-taught, so he's not professional. But of course, when I was young, I was seeing him like jamming and enjoying himself so much on the guitar that I wanted to do the same as he does. So yeah, he does that. But my whole family always has been a very huge support for me, encouraging me always to pursue a music path, a music career. I guess they always believed in me, so it always felt very good to do it.
That's fantastic. And I've been taking a look at your sets, been really getting into it as I've been watching kind of all the instrumentation you kind of use throughout your sets. So could you just take us through number one, kind of a timeline of the instruments that you do play and kind of when you started for each of them?
Oh, well, actually, I can only play the piano,
Oh, okay.
but I write for everyone. As I told you, I stopped the piano lessons when I was 12.
Mhm.
But then it's the fact of writing for guitars, basses, drums, etc. It taught me a lot of things. And then after that, when I started to really decide that I wanted to bring orchestral instruments, classical instruments into my music, then I had to learn again how to do it, because it's very specific. Some some instruments are very very specific. Like you can't blow in a trumpet for hours, for example. The guy has to breathe, right? That's kind of details that I had to learn, and how to write for a clarinet, or for that's very specific. So I couldn't. I'm not able to play a single note of clarinet, of course, but it's very nice for me, and I love to get myself out of my comfort zone and always speak with these guys, clarinetist or whoever. Violinist, and so they can tell me, you see, here it's more difficult if I play it like that, like how you wrote, because I think like a pianist, and so they show me another way, and then I learn from them, and I really want to do that, because I don't want to use anybody that would arrange my music. I don't like that. I want to do everything by myself. So it's a real pleasure to learn from these guys, and I've been very lucky to find awesome musicians all the way from a long time ago to here. So they were very patient with me.
That's awesome. And you studied at conservatory, correct?
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about that experience, what that was like, and kind of how that influenced your voice as an artist today?
Well, I have a very weird path actually because I started conservatory and also private lessons. And so since I was too young, I went to private lessons first. Okay. And so it was a little bit different because this guy, my teacher, he was teaching me, of course, music theory, but also he would always ask me, okay, what track do you want to learn today? And he would play it, and I got to choose it. And then a few years later, I started to go to conservatory, and of course, it was so different. It was really more strict. We would have actually, even the first year I went there, they told me, no, you're not gonna touch a piano before 1 or 2 years. And I was already able to play the piano, so it was for me it was weird. So I didn't stay there for a long time, but I kept going to the private lessons because I don't know, we had this connection with this guy, and it was really really cool because I think more than music theory at this moment, I think I needed more passion. And this guy taught me passion, and this is as important because you know what? I'm gonna tell you, like last I think 3 years ago, I gave lessons at a conservatory. So I was a teacher of composition. I wanted to see what was like to do that. And actually I noticed that very often kids, they don't really know why they're learning things. And so if you don't tell them, they can't get passionate about it, right? And it's very important, of course, that that's the first thing to get passion. Otherwise, you don't want to work it, right? You don't want to work for it because you don't get the point. So I think this guy, yeah, he really taught me passion, and that's very important for me because then that's why I kept going for hours and having long nights on the piano and composing and becoming what I became today.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was actually good. It kind of leads well into my next question, which was going to be, what is the moment where you realized you fell in love with dance music? Did it happen over time? Was there kind of a state singular moment that you realized you were kind of interested in making that transition from more classically trained music to electronic dance?
No, at first I kind of fell in love with actually harder style, like
Mhm.
hard style. I was getting out of a teenager passion for metal music and that kind of things. I had a lot of metal bands, and so I got out of that, and I found hard style, and I don't even remember all this the name that describe it, but it was like very tong,
Yeah.
very hard. So I love that because I thought, okay, that was full of energy, and I saw also I kind of fell in love with the community as well. Going into a club, seeing these people dressing in a different way that they would dress in the street, and I found that very interesting that this community thing. So I started to go clubbing every weekend, and I even got a job there, because I wanted to stay there, and I needed money to pay the entrances, and so I thought, okay, why not work there, and so I was just posting flyers and that kind of things. And one day I saw Eric Prydz play.
Mhm.
And this guy, every weekend I would see different DJs, but they would always play what was trendy. And so in some ways it was kind of similar every weekend. You could have this British guy, and then Dutch guy and whatever, but it was pretty similar at the end, kind of playing the charts, the top 10 charts or 100 charts of Beatport or whatever. And when I saw Eric Prydz, this guy, he arrived and he played only his own tracks, only his own music. And I thought, okay, fuck. First of all, it's incredible. I mean, this guy is incredibly talented. I really fell in love with the Prida productions, and second of all, he brings us into his world. He's not just proposing to play tracks that we already know by heart and that we already have in our cars or whatever. No, he brings his own stuff and he proposes a new world for us. So in this case, if this exists and if this is allowed, I want to try that as well. And so for the first time, I connected music, really music, and what I knew from music to clubbing. And so I wanted to try, and then I tried it, and that was the beginning of a very nice adventure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have a couple questions about kind of your perspective on clubbing and club culture. But first I want to ask to kind of give the listeners a little bit of a sense of your style. In 2015, Billboard had kind of called your music serious techno with a light touch. But you have, I think, such a distinct sound that I would like to know from you. How would you describe your music?
My music.
Mm.
I think what I try to do is to keep the energy of electronic music
Mhm.
and also add the warmth and the emotion of classical music. So I try to combine both of these worlds. I mean, classical and films music as well. It's not only classical, because classical is of course very old, so it's not always the case. It's more films music somehow. But so yeah, I think in electronic music, what we kind of miss, what we kind of lack, is this emotion sometimes, and that's what I try to feel with the classical instruments. So that's how I see my music.
Absolutely. And back to that idea of kind of this community that's created from the club scene around dance music, would love to hear from you, Worakls. How has the dance music community kind of reacted to your style? Obviously, it's something a little bit fresh, different, maybe similar to you kind of showing up at the club one night and kind of hearing that new sound. A lot of people are coming to the clubs that you play at and might not be familiar, might not be used to the type of sound that you're putting out there. So would love to just hear about how the community has reacted to your style.
So um so let's say I'm gonna speak about Europe, because here I know in the US I'm kind of new. I'm like a newcomer, but in Europe I've been working my career for a long time now, quite almost 10 years. I think even more than 10 years. So in the beginning, let's say I started by producing techno. So I was in a very squared genre. And then I added a little more melodies to that. And then finally, eventually, I brought a little bit of classical instruments little by little, and I also brought my keyboard on stage. So uh, I think I always had a lot of support from my fans, and I've been very lucky about that. But of course, sometimes I noticed that I wasn't, what is hard when you do that, when you bring an instrument on stage, is that you don't know where to put the fader, right? You don't know if you want to have more electronic music or more classical instrument. And this is very different, because a lot of these guys, they just want to go to a club and dance, right?
Yeah.
Some others, no, they want to have a concert. So you have to find the right balance in between the two. And of course, I didn't find it right away.
Mhm.
I worked for that. And it's always my struggle. It's always my problem. And the big question mark is always, for every track, for every performance, am I playing enough piano? Am I playing too much piano? Is it like, I mean, I heard sometimes, when I started to do that, some people saying, man, I love your music, but I'm not coming to a piano concert, right? And I completely get it. I completely get it. It's normal. So I kind of work that, and I think, of course, now I'm after doing that for. I mean, I play with the piano for maybe 6 or 7 years now, and it, I know a little more how to do it, and I know that I have to bring it just a little bit so you want more, but it's something that you learn year after year. So what I try to do now, my goal is to every time, even though you don't know my music, even though you're not familiar with that kind of music or whatever, you I want to bring you into my world and to show you, look at that. It's maybe not what you listen to, but it can be cool as well. And it's a whole world that I propose to you, and I hope for 1 hour and a half or 2 hours you'll enjoy it,
Mhm.
right? I try to make it special. That's my goal.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really interesting consideration, that trying to kind of find that right balance between the crowd that's there to go to a club, listen to music, have the music be the wallpaper to their Saturday night, versus somebody who's coming to actually see you perform and kind of, play the keyboard and kind of do all those things. So I think that's a really, really interesting, and I'm sure challenging part of your job.
It is. It's very challenging, yeah, because it's you never won the game. Actually, you never win the game. You always have it to restart, and every weekend is different. And of course, it's super nice for me to arrive here with all those years in my bags, because it also I also have to propose to a new crowd here in the US that doesn't really know me, my stuff, and my past in some ways, so it's very interesting to see how people react. And I've been for now, I've been very, very lucky, and the people seem to enjoy it, so I'm happy.
Absolutely. And as you're kind of, expanding in the US and touring here, you're currently on a tour in the US right now. Are you finding that you're kind of falling back on the stuff that you know a little bit better, some of your older tracks, things like that? Or are you really taking this as an opportunity to experiment with this new crowd?
um let's say I always allow myself a little part of experimentation, but I'm also a very focused on my goal, which is to give the best show I can. So I'm not gonna sacrifice any show to experiment, right? So that's why at every show I try one thing or two, but not like changing the whole thing. No, I want to have the best show ever every day I play. So it's not possible to just change everything.
Yeah, totally understand there. And that kind of leads me into what I want to ask Worakls. I've watched a few of your sets, really incredible stuff. And the one that really comes to mind is your circle set, where you were actually backed by, I think it was a 40-piece live orchestra as you were playing, which was just incredible to me. Could you talk a
Mhm.
little bit about, number one, that performance? And then secondly, what's your creative process for something like that?
So we did actually a whole tour with the orchestra,
Mhm.
and it was in Europe, and it was huge. It was great. I mean, I loved it, and it was a wonderful experience. And I think that's the ultimate version of my life, and that's really what I want to do this live every day. I mean, that's really that's my goal, to finish doing only lives like that with the orchestra. And I had the idea for a long time, but of course, it costs a lot of money to produce. So you need to bring enough people in the crowd to make it happen, right? So that's reality, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, how did I do that? I mean, I always compose in my own tracks with classical parts. So there are violins already, there are woodwinds, there are brass. There is already all that kind of things in my tracks. So I just had to write it down to give them that. I mean, For me, it was exactly the same as the keyboard electronic balance. Exactly the same. Is that you have two worlds. Of course, every track is composed to be played with all these instruments, so you don't have to really to rethink that. But of course, it's a show, so you need sometimes to have um, let's say beautiful string parts, let's say, and other parts a big drop with only electronic music, and you have to find the right balance, right, to always surprise your crowd and to always keep them interested in your thing. So so it was quite a long job because I did a whole album. It took me 1 year and a half or something like that to compose, and then it took me maybe 6 months to write the show and organize the rehearsals and everything, and then finally do this tour. But I'll do it again for sure. I'm actually working on it, so I'm excited. I really can't wait because you know what's the a little bit frustrating with that kind of show is that once you wrote it, you have to go for it. You're not gonna change everything, because it would imply so many changes. I mean, when I play by my own, I can just decide to change something. But when you have this whole orchestra behind you, you have to write down everything again. So that's quite a mess. So now that I had the experience of the first tour, I'm writing new things with this experience. So I really can't wait to have the second version of the orchestra coming.
Awesome. Looking forward to that. And I want to ask, it can either be from this tour or, really any gig you've ever played. Do you have a favorite gig that you've ever played or one that really stands out, whether that was from early in your career or, more recent?
I had several, but I think the circle one was very, very helpful because it was very hard to play because it was the beginning of our tour and we weren't really on point yet. But still, I mean, it was very, very helpful to show my music to the world. And and yeah, I have a couple of memories like that in Europe, with particularly with this tour, because I think, of course, I like my solo shows, but it's not the same. When you taste, once you taste the shows with scenography, with lights, with it's like defending something really. It's like you're defending like a movie, like if you wrote a book or something like that. It's a whole project. It's not only just going to a club and do some animation. Once you tried that, it's like really you present something. Here's what I did for the past 2 years. See, so
Yeah.
I like that. I like to work in details and try to improve a show until I play it in front of people, and that's life. That's wonderful. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you kind of just mentioned you're working on version kind of 2.0 of kind of that show. Is there anything else on the horizon for you next? How else are you planning to continue to push the envelope of dance music?
Yeah, I'm writing a new album in the meantime, so I'm gonna release it at the end of this year, and I'm super excited about it. Really.
Awesome. And want to be sure to ask where it goes. What other kind of inspirations do you have, musical inspirations do you have that have really influenced your sound and style? Do you have anybody, whether it's a DJ, kind of a classical musician, a producer, who you really look up to and are inspired by?
Many, many, and in very different genres actually. Of course, I love a lot of composers like Hans Zimmer or uh, I mean a lot of them like John Williams. Or I love also very different stuff like Skrillex, for example. I mean, I love Skrillex. This guy is super super talented, and I like different things. Like I really enjoy bossa nova as well. So I have this. kind of very large. It's very wide, you know. I never know what I'm gonna listen to. But but weirdly, I don't really listen to a lot of electronic music. Maybe because I work in that, and so every day I'm producing my own. But yeah, apart from very different genres like drum and bass or dubstep, or you know, it's very rare that I listen to electronic music. But otherwise, yeah, I think if I would name only one, I would say Hans Zimmer. Hans Zimmer is a he's a genius, really.
Fantastic. And kind of a bit of a related question that we like to kind of ask all the artists that we spotlight. Can you name a track that's been instrumental in kind of your development as a dance music artist?
A track that I didn't do, right? A track.
Yeah, a
Well,
track.
I don't think I really got the question. Sorry.
Yeah. Can you name a track from another artist that's been instrumental in kind of your development as an artist?
Of course, especially in the beginning. I think when I started, yeah, what there is this one track that I loved, Ame, from Ame, Reg. I love this track. It's incredible. And I mean, I have a lot in mind, like Who Killed Sparky from Sasha.
Mhm.
I have many tracks from Prida, of course. This guy is a genius. And I don't know, I like many things, like from Paul Carboner to Extravelt. I don't know if you know that, but yeah, I mean, these guys are in minimal, and they're so good. So I mean, I had many different influences as well, and but now I don't want to do it anymore because I would be afraid to copy, you know. So I mean, I would be afraid to be too much influenced, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, so that's why now I listen more to other kinds of music, so I can just mix everything that I like into my stuff.
Hey, yeah, that's always a solution for sure.
Yeah.
So Oracles, this has been a really great conversation. I'm super excited for your upcoming projects.
Thanks a lot.
Especially as we've been talking about, you have such a deep history when it comes to the club scene and kind of uniting all of these different communities within dance music. So want to first and foremost thank you for being on Gray Area today. We
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for inviting me. It was a pleasure.
And before we formally sign off, actually, what we want to do is some rapid fire questions with you. So I have about a list of 12 questions prepared here. It's just going to be this or that, or kind of ask you to name something. So we're just going to rattle them off right now. You ready?
Okay, it has to be quick. Okay.
All right, here we go. Number one is coffee or tea.
Coffee.
All right, cats or dogs.
Cats.
House or techno.
Techno.
What is the ideal BPM for a track?
Man, I can't answer. Actually, that's pretty much the whole concept of my new album, is like to don't give a hell to BPMs. I want to break that. So I really don't have, like, if you come to my show, you will see that I can play from 100 to 160. So I can't answer that. I'm sorry. Okay, the answer is yes.
Fair enough. All right. Next, intimate club or festival.
Intimate club.
All right. Vegas or Miami.
Never been to Vegas, so I'd say Miami.
All right. Favorite color.
Blue.
Least favorite food.
Indian food.
All right. Finish this sentence. Before I die, I want to blank.
That's hard.
Getting deep.
That's deep. Yeah. um, oh my God, man. I don't know. I feel like I have a new dream every year. You know, I'm super lucky, so I got them. You know, my dreams, and it's not dreams anymore. It's goals. You know, so So I really don't know. Before I die, I want to have an orchestral tour here in the US.
All right, there we go.
Yeah.
I will. I'll be there. All right.
Yeah.
Next. Guilty pleasure TV show.
Oh my, I have so many. Guilty pleasure TV show, a show, not a movie, a show.
Good movie too. Yeah.
I guess I watched Emily in Paris, man. It's very guilty pleasure. I have to admit, I did it.
That's a great answer. And finally, last question for you. Where is your happy place?
Home. Home, actually, with my family, with my cats, and yeah, home in Provence, in the south of France.
Awesome. Well, I think that's a great note to end on. Worakls, thank you so much for joining us on Gray Area. This is an awesome conversation, and look forward to seeing what you're going to do next.
Thanks a lot, mate. Really was a pleasure. Thank you for everything.